Welcome back to This Old Nerd. I'm Ayaz Akhtar, and look, we got this giant TV. It's great, right? It's fantastic. But what are we going to watch on it? We need lots of different components, and that cabinet right there houses almost everything. There's some components up there because we want them up there. We're going to show you how that's all set up. It's a bit complex because, well, we wanted it to be. Now, what you're about to see is a work in progress, okay? Now, you're going to see some messy cabling. You're going to see just a, what looks to be a cluster F in here, but it's because I'm just testing everything still. Let's go into this thing to show you the components. There are two doors. Down here, we have an HTPC. I'm going to try to clear out of the way. There's a PS3, Nintendo Wii, an Xbox 360. All our power stuff here, our Mac Mini, the Drobo. And if you keep going up top, you'll see a little Roku XDS and an Apple TV. This is, again, testing. This will probably be out of here in a minute. This is the brain of everything. Things have really changed since I bought a receiver last. That is the Denon AVR 1912. It has a book. It's all exciting. See this? It is an integrated network AV receiver. Now, I haven't bought a receiver in such a long time. The fact that this thing has an Ethernet port, that was surprising to me. But what it allows you to do is you can run AirPlay through this. So if, let's say, I have a screaming little boy and he wants to hear music immediately, well, you can just take your laptop or your iPhone or whatever and send the audio right to there. So it's kind of a neat little trick. Let's actually show you how everything is wired, because this is something else. Just gonna turn this around. You know, that's really easy, right? Okay. I think that's as far as we're gonna turn this thing. Can we just get a shot of this so we can get the appreciation of the magnitude of this mess? You see the receiver up here? You can see the back of everything here. Now, if you're looking at this cabinet and you're wondering, what did you do to the cabinet? Why does it look like this? I'll explain. Let's talk about the cabinet actually. What we wanted in this room was a very clean look. Okay, we wanted a thing that was very pleasing to our partners, and let's face it, a lot of these things have really bright freaking lights. You want to watch a nice movie over here, and everything's shining in your face. That's not going to work. So we went with a doored cabinet here, but we needed something called airflow. Whether you know it or not, PS3s get really hot, so are Xbox 360s, any computer, and there's a Drobo up there. That thing needs to be cool, okay? Because bad things happen when you're overheating all your stuff here. Now, we originally had a back on this. This is an IKEA piece. It had like a paper backing thing. Apparently, it's integral. Without this thing becomes a structural nightmare. This whole thing was lilting, and it's supposed to be like this, you know, like square. It was like that, like a parallelogram. That was not very good. So we had to reinforce this thing. Went to the hardware store, picked up some metal, effectively. And if you see this, this is tape. Because I did not cut this perfectly, unfortunately. What actually happened was, I don't have a lot of my power tools anymore, so I had to use a hacksaw. So the cuts didn't turn out as great, and these things are freaking sharp, okay? You can cut somebody with this. So we tape it up, just so, put your hands back there, we don't get cut. This was not enough reinforcement. Scrap wood, scrap wood, scrap wood. Okay? So now this thing is actually structurally somewhat sound compared to what this thing was before. Otherwise, we were like this. And it's not very nice to see that. Okay. Now, while these are here, they are impeding a little bit. We can't get to the cables as easily. One of my favorite things about this receiver, by the way, is that it has assignable inputs. So let's say we have a Mac Mini that has an HDMI out, actually DVI to HDMI, but you have optical audio coming out of another port. Well, you can say, hey, look, I want input 1 to just be the DVI plus the optical. So like, it does all of that for you. It's really a great idea. I love this thing, actually. It's fancy. It does way more than I thought it could. The networking stuff, the AirPlay stuff is fantastic. It has an on-screen display. Back when I bought my first receiver, that wasn't a thing. Okay, receivers didn't have an on-screen display. You'd mess with that. You know, it comes with a microphone that you mount on a tripod. You could get the best listening experience. Originally, what we wanted to do was we wanted to send everything wirelessly from this receiver to this thing. We tried out something called the BrightView H Delite. Now, that turned out to have some problems. Now, when we hooked it up with our receiver, audio wouldn't start right away. So we wanted to watch, I don't know, a Blu-ray of Star Trek. That was our example movie. We tried it out. And if you would change chapters, about 3 to 4 seconds of no audio before it would catch up. So we really didn't like that. And unfortunately right now, we're using just a very long HDMI cable. There's gonna be a channel built through here. That's a whole other episode, I guess. So here is the waterfall of cables, right? Let's explain what's going on here. We have lots of HDMI cables. Do yourself a favor. Clean up your workspace. All of my Ethernet stuff, all of this junk right now, this is garbage, effectively. This is all gonna be ripped out because I have to make custom length stuff because this is a mess. What I needed to do though, this is part of the complexity of this. I had to figure out the heat flow in here. You have to worry about heat in here. Like I was saying before, that's why this whole thing is blown out. It's because heat rises, right? So what's my most important component in this entire thing? The cable modem, actually, because it turned out that was the thing that was overheating the most. Down in the corner, way over there, that little thing, you can see the blue cable coming out of it. That's our cable modem. And when it was located somewhere up towards the top, funnily enough, the heat was just apparently messing with it, was destroying it. So we had to move it down there. So it's a small thing, why would you even think about the heat issue for your cable modem? Yeah, I do now. So we left a lot of space above the game systems because the fans are over here. Obviously this is all open, so we have some nice airflow. This cabinet never goes up against the wall, okay? We have, come around, we actually have a subwoofer down there. Right there you can see our powered subwoofer from Polk, and that takes care of a lot of things for us, because nice bass response. Now in any modern home theater system like this thing, apparently everything needs to be networked. Now I am not a fan of Wi-Fi when it comes to that stuff, especially for gaming, so everything is wired. Now you can't really see this behind this board here, but if you come in, let's show you. There's one switch, there's a second switch here, and there's our router. Now, turns out I have a lot more components, and since the receiver itself needs its own Ethernet connection, well, I had to buy a new switch. This is an 8-port switch from Monoprice. This is the first time I'm trying out a Monoprice switch because it was about 25 bucks. It's a good deal considering it does gigabit. That's going to be here, all right? This is kind of nice that it's just small enough that we can find our cables. Do yourself a favor, okay? Right now, see this? These are all color-coded. So I can go and find anything. Look, the blue one goes to the cable modem. This yellow one is long enough so I know where it's going. This is all going to be replaced with the same color. Label your cables, okay? I've done that with all the power cables down here. This is our power center. There's 2 surge protectors worth because everything's got to be powered, obviously. And we don't want all these cables to be plugged in to somewhere outside the cabinet. We wanted everything in this cabinet. If a cable is not obvious, like I don't know where this one goes, well, I'll tell you what, it's got a label. Okay, so how do we control this mess? Come on over. Let's show you the shelf or mantle full of remotes. Here's a Firefly for the Vostro, and here's our receiver remote, and then there's a PS3 remote, a television remote, the Roku remote, tiny back here. Look, an Apple remote, a TiVo remote. TiVo's not hooked up because we're not paying for TiVo service anymore. Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's not going to fly with the partner thing, by the way. Also, it's not going to fly for you. It shouldn't. If you are just building this for yourself, you should make this easy on yourself. When you want to go and watch the Roku or something, you shouldn't have to figure out, where is that on this thing? I don't know. And then I need this other remote, and then, no, forget that. We're using an old Logitech Harmony 720. This is, we like the 720 on the shape. We used to have the, I think it was the 880. It's like a dog bone shape, kind of like this thing. But it kept falling, literally kept falling out of our hands. So we went with this thing. And of course, if you're unfamiliar with the Harmony series, I'm confused. You shouldn't be unfamiliar with the Harmony series. But these are, there's a little USB jack here. You can program macros on here, and you can label the activities. It does everything you want. Hit Roku, it switches the receiver. Everything turns on, first of all. Switches the receiver to the right input, and then has all the controls for your Roku. By the way, here's a hint. Roku, when you try to find it in Harmony, is under DVD for some reason. So there's a little tip for you. Let's put that down. That also makes the partner very happy. Now that's an IR remote, okay? It doesn't do RF. Closed cabinet, IR remote. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? First of all, the receiver does a lot of the work, so that's out there. Not only is it out there for the heat, we can directly communicate via IR with this thing. But we have components in here. That is why I have my IR repeaters. That is something I have to install. That's actually why I started recording the episode, because I need to install this anyway. So, come down here. This is my current project box. There's some speaker wire because I have to do some more work around here. You can see the speaker wire is just far too taut. I need to make sure that I can get some slack in there. And let's see, here is my transmitter. Here is our receivers. The last time we used these things was like way back in episode 3 when we split our home theater and we wanted to control things that way, but it still works the same way. This is from Turk. It's called the LFIRX. That's what it is. Very exciting name. It's actually still available in this owner's store, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in here, right? This is obviously very temporary. We're going to be cleaning this up in the long run. So let's say this would go here, and this needs to be inside. Now, one of the cool things about this, take a look at the back. It actually has an IR out. Okay, so similar to a Slingbox or a Hava or anything with an IR blaster, this thing, first it can just operate this way, you can just fire things out. But what we're going to do is we're going to use this with an IR blaster because we're just going to attach them directly to these devices. So we have a 2006 Mac Mini back there, a really old Mac Mini, so it doesn't have HDMI out. One of the weird things is, apparently Mac Minis that use DVI are constantly looking for something called the EDID, and that has something to do with the display. I don't even know what it stands for, but the thing is, if you're running the Mac Mini through a receiver like we are, the Mac will get confused and say, hey, what happened to my display? Display's gone. Even when you tell the receiver, go to Mac Mini. Mac Mini does not see it. So you need to go out and buy a piece of hardware to fix this. This is ridiculous to me. Come on over, this is from Monoprice. This is the DVI Doctor. If you look up this problem, you'll see that there's a solution for it. Monoprice DVI Doctor DDX01. Okay, what you do is you plug this in, and you can see it sits between the receiver and the Mac Mini. This is absolutely ridiculous. Effectively, this thing is fooling the Mac Mini into saying, I always have a display. And that's all it does, okay? It's 50 bucks. But it's cheaper than buying a new Mac Mini. You know what I'm going to do next? I'm actually going to talk about the partner acceptance rating. Now, this thing, actually pretty high on the partner acceptance rating, as long as you have one of these. Make sure you have your universal remote that you program all the macros to. Because if you say, hey, handle it yourself and do this and hand them all this stuff, that's a dumb idea. This thing actually looked quite elegant standing over there, okay? Minus this hanging on thing. I have to remove that. You want it to look pretty. The back looks like this. You saw the front. The front's very nice. Actually, I'm not going to turn this around yet because I have to do some more work in here. So partner acceptance rating, pretty high. But remember that you have to really make sure that this thing is cool, okay? It's just like if you had your own server rack. Keep it cool, because otherwise you're going to destroy everything. Again, your partner really won't care about that until something breaks. Like when we didn't have internet because that was overheating. All right, I've got a lot more work to do, and that's actually going to wrap up this season of This Old Nerd. That's right, I said it. This is the last episode of this season. We're going to take a nice break, and then we're actually going to have the show ready for you. Week to week to week to week. Could you imagine that if the show came out on time? That would be great. I'd love that. But you can see that I've been a little bit busy. The funny thing is, making these things, making this actually takes time. So, hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks and we'll have everything all sorted out. It'll be great. So, this is Isaac 4, This Old Nerd, saying, how's your tech life? Because it could be better. This is gonna get better.